With Neon Studios' recent acquisition of Sentimental Value and the Palme d'Or winner, It Was Just an Accident, some people are left wondering what is going to happen with last year's TIFF audience winner and expected to be huge awards player, The Life of Chuck. I think I have an answer for you, and I'm not sure if you're going to like it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the garage. Gerald here with you, of course, and it's time for another movie review. This is a new release that still has not come out yet. Premiered last year in 2024 at the Toronto International Film Festival, where, like I said in my cold open, it ended up winning the Audience Award. That might not sound like a big deal, but basically it means it was the favorite film of the people that attended the festival. But the more interesting stat with that win is that 12 consecutive TIFF audience member winning films went on to be nominated for the Oscar for Best Picture, a pretty staggering statistic. However, even with all of that information, nobody picked up U.S. distribution rights to The Life of Chuck in 2024. But it rolled over to 2025 and Neon Studios picked up the film and announced handling the distribution. Now, that's a pretty big deal because Neon is on quite a tear really since their Best Picture win with Parasite back in 2019. They have not let the foot off the gas, and they always have a movie or two in the discussion every single award season. All that aside, what did I think of this movie? I wanted to give you a quick spoiler-free review. Charles Chuck Krantz experiences the wonder of love, the heartbreak of loss, and the multitudes contained in all of us. Does he, though? I'll do a good and bad breakdown here because this movie excited me in certain parts and it really disappointed me in the others. For as far as excitement goes and the positives, I mentioned Mark Hamill before. He is probably my favorite performance in the film. He plays Chuck's grandfather and they age him in the film to be like around 80 years old. He has a couple really good, outstanding speeches and monologues that he gives. There's also a pretty animated sequence where he gets kind of crazy. So I love his performance. The cast in this film is impeccable. Everybody turns in A+ work. All the actors involved, and there's a ton of names that you're going to be familiar with, whether you're talking about Matthew Lillard, of course, recently from Five Nights at Freddy's. Heather Langenkamp pops up in this film in pretty much a cameo. She's in one 2 or 3 minute scene. We're talking about Nancy from the Nightmare on Elm Street films. Mia Sara, who played Sloane in Ferris Bueller's Day Off in the 80s and has been on a giant hiatus from making at least feature-length films, shows up here in actually a pretty prominent role. I was expecting that to be a cameo, and she was maybe second or third billed in terms of screen time in this movie. Frequent collaborator Kate Siegel, of course, is going to be in a Flanagan film. I love her, and she was in one, maybe two scenes in this movie, also a very small role. So here's the issue. You have all these great performances, and I'm including Tom Hiddleston, by the way, in this commentary, but they are so sparse, the characters, and more specifically, the screen time is very sparse. You have so many different personalities and characters that you're introduced to that, in my opinion, you don't have enough time to spend with any of them to connect on the deeper level, the emotional level that the movie is basically asking you to invest in these characters. You don't really get an opportunity to do that because you're not spending enough time with them on screen. Although he's the main character, Chuck is, but Tom Hiddleston's version of Chuck, which is the face of the film, is only in the second act. And that's going to lead me into my next bullet point that is kind of a seesaw where it's like, okay, but kind of annoyed me at the end of the day. And that is the way the narrative structure is given to us. It is told out of order in backwards fashion. So the film starts with the ending of the movie, or what would have essentially been the final 20 minutes is the first 20 minutes. And it plays in a rewind fashion until we get back to the first act of the film, which in this case is the end of the film, and it features Chuck from ages 7 to 15 or 16. That's the first act, but in this case, the last act. You get what I'm saying here? It's unnecessarily convoluted and confusing to space it out that way when I did not see a point to do that. What we're getting here is a life reflection story that incorporates elements of the supernatural, sci-fi, surrealism, but it's telling the story of this man's life. And I'm not going to give any plot points away as to what happens to him throughout this journey specifically. Why didn't we tell that in a normal chronological structure? Anybody that loves this movie, and a lot of people do, which is fine, would you have still loved it if it had just been told from point A to point Z? And I think I would have enjoyed it more, because what happened for me is we got the ending of the film in the beginning. And it is a very substantial ending, by the way. It's not just like, oh, what was that? It's like, okay, that's the end of this movie. That's it. What could go on beyond that? You'll know what I mean when you see it. And then as the movie goes on, we get to Act 2, which I guess is kind of like the middle portion of these two bookends. And that's where we get Tom Hiddleston's character for the most part. And you've seen the trailer and the clips of him doing the really cool dance number in the streets. We see that in this portion, which might have been my favorite scene in the whole movie. Really, really good stuff. Then we get to the Act 3 at the end of the film, which is when Chuck is a kid pretty much, through to like his early teen years. A lot of my favorite performances come in that final act, including young Benjamin Paycheck. I think that's how you say it, which is a baller name, by the way. But he portrays the young Chuck in that final segment of the film, and he was so good. He has this thing where he's really loves song and dance, and he's taking dance lessons, and he's courting this girl that's also in the dance class, but she's older than him. And he just was so like natural. Like, it was really believable, especially from a child actor. It was a really genuine performance by him. He was one of my favorites and a big surprise for me. So seeing that, the rest of the movie, when links are made to what we had already seen in that ending sequence, it's like matter of fact. It's like we see a character, or we hear a line of dialogue, or there's a connection to this person that was in the beginning of the film, or whatever. And it's like, okay, so instead of me figuring it out to get to that point, you're just basically telling me what's happening. I'd rather the movie just played out, because then when we see all the stuff with Chuck as a young kid, and when we see all the stuff with Chuck as Hiddleston in his like 20s and 30s, and then when we see all the shit at the end that I was talking about with the real finality that we get at the end of the film with the beginning, but you know what I mean, then all that stuff plays out, right? We get to that last half hour, and then that ending that I'm talking about happens, and you see all this other stuff, all these other characters, and you go, oh, okay. You know, that's what that meant an hour ago when I saw that. That's why they mentioned that. That's the tie-in. And you kind of have to like figure it out for yourself as you're sitting there and connect all these dots and have all these memories of what you saw. And it demands a rewatch too, because it's a cool reveal when you get up to that final end, and it really is. But the way the life of Chuck plays it, it's not a reveal. I didn't understand why they did that. I really didn't. That's why I was going to say, anybody that loves this movie, that's good for you. But let me know in the comments, did you feel it necessary to break up the narrative structure like that and to kind of tell it in reverse? Because it's a tactic that's obviously been used. I mean, Memento from Christopher Nolan's one of my favorite movies of all time. But in this case, what was the point? I didn't feel like it improved anything in this movie in any way. And in my viewpoint, it actually hurt the film a little bit, because I would have much rather kind of figured out the journey with Chuck along the way, as opposed to like, here's the end of the journey. Now we're going to show you how we got to the end, and just show you and tell you, which is what happened. So unfortunately, because of that, and because of the lack of character development with really anybody in the film, including Chuck, I just didn't connect to it. It just didn't have the emotional punch that was obviously intended here. And then when it ends, and I mean ending, the film ending, which is the beginning, but anyway, this is so confusing to even talk about, is what I mean. I don't understand why they did it. But anyway, when the movie ends and the credits roll, I felt nothing. I walked, I got up, I made sure there wasn't an end credit scene, I Googled it, and I got up and left. And I felt literally nothing, except mild disappointment, because this is Mike Flanagan. This was on my most anticipated movies of the year list for both 2024 and 2025. So to not be high over the moon about it when I saw it does disappoint me. And also, I love Flanagan. The guy is a horror master who has done some of my favorite iterations of horror films and thrillers over the last like 5 to 6 years, including on television with various things that he did with Netflix, Midnight Mass, Hill House. Like, I love all that shit. And I also wanted to tell you that on my review. If you're a horror fan, if you love Flanagan like I do not go see The Life of Chuck expecting even the most smallest resemblance of a horror movie. It's a melodramatic coming-of-age, self-reflection drama with some sci-fi elements built into it. That's what it is, with a great performance from Mark Hamill. That's my summary of The Life of Chuck. At the end of the day, and wrapping up, I was okay with the movie. It was fine for what it was. It did not live up to what it could have been, and it definitely did not live up to my expectations of what it was going to be based on everybody involved, including Stephen King and coming from his source material. So because of that, it was a bit of a letdown for me, even though it's a pretty average film. You know, and the TIFF Audience Award really kind of surprises me because this does not seem like a crowd pleaser. It really doesn't. It's a bit of a downer of a film. And the movie is not able, at least from my perspective, to win me back in terms of happiness, excitement, joyfulness, like a positive outlook even, which is kind of the message of the movie in a way too, which is just strange because I feel like it's contradicting itself the way it decided to tell the story. I know I've been beating the thing up, but I will tell you this. All the texts are beautiful. I think adapted screenplay may be in the mix for him. Great conversational pieces between the characters when we get that. But if you like those like tearjerker, kind of like really deep family drama type of stories, then you'll dig this because it's Chuck dealing with where his life is now and how it got to that point. And he's basically reflecting on that throughout the entire film. And we are experiencing that with him. I just wish that experience was more in real time with Chuck. So for The Life of Chuck, starring Mr. Tom Hiddleston, from me is going to get a 6 out of 10. I do recommend it very, very slightly. A 6 out of 10 is the minimum recommend for me. So if you like that kind of film, a drama that is trying to evoke emotionality and get tears out of you, this is what that movie's trying to be. I just didn't like the way it told that story. When it comes to Oscar prospects, I did mention earlier, Mark Hamill actually is currently in my 5 for Best Supporting Actor. He is absolutely phenomenal in this film. And I'm also giving adapted screenplay for Mike Flanagan a possibility too. Have you guys seen The Life of Chuck? I know a lot of people saw it last year even. What did you think of it? Let me know down below. And please don't be afraid to comment to me on, because my biggest gripe with the film, a couple points at least, came off for the narrative structure. So if that worked for you, just tell me why, and that's completely fine. And as always, I appreciate you tuning in. Don't forget to subscribe. And if you are a channel regular and you like awards season, or even more so if you like movies, channel memberships are open. You get all kinds of really cool shit. So make sure if you're into it, you click join down below and help me keep the garage funded out here. I'll see you guys next time in the garage. Thank you.